For this video, what I want to do is show you how to use a free online scientific calculator at Desmos.com to find sine, cosine, secant, tangent, cotangent, and cosecant. For these, they are in radian mode, so you do want to make sure that you are in radians and not degrees. Sine and cosine and tangent are all programmed in there. For secant and cotangent and cosecant, you have to use the reciprocal functions. You do not want to use the inverse sine and inverse cosine and inverse tangent buttons. So if you remember that secant is the inverse of 1 over cosine, so when you plug this one into your calculator, you do have to put it as 1 over cosine 3 pi over 4. Before you get your decimal approximation. Cotangent, remember, is the reciprocal of tangent. So to plug this one into your calculator, you would have to do 1 divided by tangent, negative pi over 6. And then for the last one that you have to use a reciprocal function for is cosecant. And cosecant, remember, is 1 over sine. So with the exception of that, otherwise all we have to do is hit the button. So sine, cosine, and tangent are all programmed in. For secant, we have to remember it's 1 over cosine. For cotangent, it's 1 over tangent. And for cosecant, it's 1 over sine. So for all of these, I do have them written down on my paper. So if you want to take the time to write them down, and then I'm going to just show you how to plug each of them into the calculator. And then I'll just come back and write the answers. That way I don't have to just bounce back and forth too much. All right, so let's grab the calculator. Like I said, this is Desmos.com. It is spelled D-E-S-M-O-S. And I just am using their scientific calculator, so it's free for anybody to use. All right, so if you notice, sine, cosine, and tangent are all listed here. They do not have secant, cosecant, and cotangent, so you do have to use the inverse. The first one that it asked us to find was 711 pi divided by 6. So you simply just plug it in and hit enter, and our first answer would be negative 0.5. You can hit the fraction button and it will convert it into a fraction for this one. Okay, so negative 0.5 or negative 1/2 can be used for that answer. The next one that we had is cosine of negative 5 pi over 6. So I would just hit the cosine button, negative 5 pi divided by 6, and in this calculator the negative and the minus are used interchangeably. Notice on this one I cannot change it to a fraction because of the fact that it is not an exact answer. This one is irrational. If you use the unit circle for this one, it is negative square root of 3 divided by 2. So you will only get a decimal approximation. So if you need an exact answer, you are going to have to use the unit circle for these and not a calculator. The next one that we wanted was secant, 3 pi over 4. So remember with secant that we would put it in as 1 divided by cosine, and the value was 3 pi divided by 4. Okay, and we end up with negative 1.4142, so let's go ahead and write those three down. This one ends up being negative 1/2. Cosine ends up being approximately negative 0.8660. Secant ended up being approximately negative 1.4142. Typically with trig functions we round them to at least 4 decimal places, but just make sure that you look at your text and round to however many places that they say. The more places you have, the more precise your answer is. If you are doing other calculations beyond these initial calculations, it's best to leave it as an exact value rather than an approximate. All right, so let's do the last three, tangent, cotangent, and cosecant. So again, let's go back to our calculator. Our next one is tangent pi, and we end up with 0. Cotangent, remember, is 1 divided by tangent. And so we would just do 1 divided by the next one, sorry. Let me go back. Notice on this one, I did want to plug this in. That's actually a good one to make a mistake on because 1 divided by tangent pi is undefined, and that's because it's 1 divided by 0. But for this one, we did want to find cotangent of negative pi divided by 6. So now when I plug it in, I get approximately negative 1.7321. And then our last one was cosecant of 5 pi over 6. So for cosecant, remember that it is 1 over sine. And we see that it is 2. So let's go ahead and write these 3 down, and then we will be finished. So tangent pi is 0. Cotangent of negative pi over 6 is approximately negative 1.7321. And then cosecant of 5 pi over 6 is 2. So it's very easy to make sure, and I did forget on this one, I knew it was already in radian mode, I made sure of that. I did not address that with you though. If you notice right here, this is how you turn between radian and degree. If this one is highlighted, you get degree mode, and notice how different the answers are. So it is really nice. It goes back and it changes all of them. So make sure that you know whether you are in radian or degree mode. It will calculate them both for you. So if you're getting the answer incorrect in your homework, like you're working in an online platform, always just go back and check to make sure that you were in the correct mode. As always, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know. If there are additional topics you need me to cover, please let me know that as well.